This video is sponsored by Digital. Digital is a creator tokenizing art and music into NFTs. Check out his website at danky.art. And don't forget to sign up to his newsletter to keep up to date with everything he's creating. Thanks for the sponsorship. Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World episode 79. I'm your host, Jon Jordan, and I'm very excited this week because we have Roham and Caty from Dapper Labs. How's it going?
It's going really well. Good to be here.
It's great.
So this is a momentous day. It is the launch day for NBA Top Shot, and that is the first product going live on Dapper Labs' new Flow blockchain. So I'm sure it's been a long time for you guys to get to this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to talk a bit about kind of Flow as a blockchain and focus also on NBA Top Shot as a product. Just to break things up and make sure we're not kind of talking over each other, I think I'll probably go with Flow to begin with. So Roham, can you tell us a bit about kind of the decision to come up with a new blockchain? Obviously, CryptoKitties was the thing that kind of launched Ethereum as a kind of collectible, as a blockchain where you could create these collectible experiences. CryptoKitties is still 2.5 years on, very successful on Ethereum, but for a long time you've been thinking that you wanted to create your own blockchain. So can you delve a little bit into the thinking behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty simple, really. I mean, when we built CryptoKitties, we haven't decided, hey, we need to build our own blockchain, and we really tried to use all of the tools and platforms out there. But from the perspective of an application developer, a game developer, someone that wants to build consumer products rather than currencies or tokens or sort of ICOs, I think we felt most of the platforms out there were really lacking and made things harder for creators like us. So that's why we built Flow. It's sort of the platform we wish we had, the blockchain we wish we had in the CryptoKitties days. And NBA Top Shot is just a demonstration of sort of how smooth the user experience can be, how you can make products that are an average NBA fan doesn't even need to know that it's a crypto enabled product or it's based on a blockchain, but they can come buy, sell, trade, and sort of get the benefits of a crypto marketplace without knowing until the moment that they need to know. So when they actually want to cash out and take their stuff out. So it's really a network built from the ground up for user experience. It's built to make it easy for developers to build high quality applications and to make it easy for customers to actually come into those products and not be afraid of getting taken advantage of or hacked and losing their assets.
Mm-hmm. So I guess without putting words in your mouth, it kind of has the all the advantages that we kind of I guess learned from Ethereum that you would want with a blockchain, but it deals with all the kind of issues around kind of speed and throughput and create wallet creation, all that sort of stuff that have clearly been an obstacle. It's an interesting time in the industry, I think, because lots of people have gone through the same process as Dapper Labs. Seeing what Ethereum, kind of spawned, I suppose, and then people have come up with various different blockchains. And in fact, for the current, for the rest of the year, for the next 6 months, really, we've got a whole bunch of other different blockchains launching. All have slightly different kind of use cases. Some are similar to Flow in terms of being focused on kind of dapps. Some are have a slightly different focus. I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway because I want to see how you kind of contextualize it. Do you kind of think that if kind of 2 years ago you knew that all these other things would be launching, things like, well, obviously ETH2 is whenever that's going to come out, that's going to be a big change. There's Cardano, there's Near, there's all these other kind of blockchains, Avalanche. I can't kind of run out of names. But do you think that Flow has something different to bring to dApp developers that none of these other ones do? And presuming you do. What is that thing that it does that none of these other third generation blockchains do?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, to be honest, we spoke with most of these founders and most of these teams. We went deep on over 100 different white papers and proposals for for scaling blockchains, and before deciding that we needed to build Flow. So I'll answer your question in two parts. One is the technology, and one is the go to market. On the technology side, all of the blockchains you mentioned are scaling through really one mechanism, through breaking up the network and making it into smaller networks that then communicate with each other asynchronously. So they're taking Ethereum one. Ethereum today is a synchronous model. Every smart contract can talk to every other smart contract, and developers can just write smart contracts without having to worry about how they're going to interact with everything else. They're sort of Lego pieces. This is why they call them, money Legos, DeFi. All of these things are based on this concept of composability. You can plug and play these pieces. But what sharding does is, and networks like Near call it sharding. Networks like Polkadot, actually put create different blockchains for different applications. Cosmos, same thing. What this does is it forces the application developer, so someone like us building CryptoKitties or NBA Top Shot, or someone building a wallet, to have to worry about the ecosystem in which the application lives. So the products either they're not composable, or they're much more difficult to write. Much more, you have to worry about all kinds of different interactions that might happen, state that might change between shards or between chains. And it becomes a much more difficult programming model. So Flow is the only blockchain out there that can be fully decentralized. So we don't have limits on participation. I mean, in the early days we do, but the architecture is designed to scale. So anybody can come run a Flow node, be part of the network, stake and get paid. But at the same time, we don't have to break the network up. We don't have to resort to this idea of sharding. So that's a fundamentally new technology architecture. So essentially, that's kind of what we came up with and have spent the last year and a half or two proving, and that's what's in production right now with NBA Top Shot. But without getting into the details of the architecture, the benefit to developers is it keeps their lives straightforward and does give them the speed and sort of throughput that they expect. On the go-to-market side, when we're talking to all of these teams, very few of these teams have a sort of applications in mind for the networks that they're developing. I mean, now they're sort of everybody's trying to jump on the DeFi train, but they're trying to build general purpose platforms and don't have a clear idea of this is how we bring users, this is why those users come, this is how those users find new applications on the platform. And as app developers, we didn't feel confident betting on, we still don't, betting on a single network, because if you get it wrong, you're sort of by yourself. You don't have an ecosystem of wallets. You don't have an ecosystem of on ramps, of off ramps, of other developers building on your tools. You have, a lot of these networks sort of use different programming models, so you have this kind of friction to come in and use your application. So we knew we could bring at least some users. So we felt like we can bet on ourselves. And with our partners, we felt like we can create a critical mass. So that's sort of what we've done with Flow, where obviously we're bringing CryptoKitties, we have NBA, we have UFC, we have Dr. Seuss, but then we have over 100 partners that they themselves are bringing millions of users to the blockchain. So just last week we announced Animoca is bringing Stargirl. That's an existing game with a million monthly actives. They're bringing their upcoming MotoGP game. So MotoGP is an amazing license with a great community. We have the largest Thai exchange, BitCup, which has partnered with the top sort of YouTube influencers in Thailand. So people with over 40 million followers, and we're helping them set up a sort of social currency NFT loyalty program that can engage sort of those 40 million people. So we have 100 of these big kind of partnerships, and then we have the right developer tools that can help people actually get set up without needing to worry about the sort of innards of the system. You don't have to read our 100-page technical white papers and understand how the security model works. You can just go to docs.onflow.org and click on the playground and start start going through tutorials. So we didn't really see any teams that were taking that sort of approach in mind. And it's obviously we're on Ethereum. We're always going to be related to Ethereum in some way, and so we're always going to contribute back to that ecosystem. But making a bet on anything other than Ethereum, the current 1.0 Ethereum, is there's just not enough critical mass around anything. So, and there certainly wasn't 2 years ago.
Mm, mm. Excellent. No, that's a very good explanation of where you guys are coming from. I'm not technical, but I think it is worth people having a quick overview of the not the entire 100-page white paper, but the consensus model. The way you've kind of built that to me seemed an interesting approach. So worth looking at that, even if you're not technical. But let's get on to product now. We've kind of had some of the abstract thing about flow. So Caty, how did the idea for NBA Top Shot come about?
So it feels kind of obvious if you're a basketball fan, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, I'm not. Let's assume some of our audience are not basketball fans.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a basketball fan or you're a football fan, I mean that in the soccer way. If you're an American football fan, the things that you love about that sport are kind of that dynamic action that happens on the field or on the court. And so when we think about what we want to build, we start with a really fan centric approach. What would people who like basketball like? And the answer there is super obvious. It's they love, the most spectacular plays. They love bragging rights. They love talking about who has the best stuff or who has the best team. And so what we really tried to do is translate that into a basketball product for basketball fans. And like Roham said, that has this blockchain underpinning that gives them all of these different extra value propositions, but without them having to really get deep into blockchain themselves. They understand that they now have these great collections and they can, buy and sell from each other, and they can put together these, these amazing sets, and they don't really have to think about blockchain at all. But when they go to do those actions, it's really blockchain that's allowing them to do that. So we started with what would a fan love, and then we said, how do we make that better with blockchain? And if we can't do that, we shouldn't do this project, because it has to make it better, and it did, and it does.
And was basketball, did that kind of stand out as a kind of collectible? Because obviously there's all the big kind of US sports, and some of them are already involved in other blockchain projects. So was like NBA the kind of one of the ones that was left, or did you think there was something particular about kind of basketball that made it a good fit?
No, not at all. The NBA is extremely progressive. From a technology perspective, they often are leading the way. Their players are extremely progressive. You hear all the time about players investing in the tech space and participating in the tech space. We have players who are investors in our company as well. And so basketball was an obvious fit. It took us a long time to come up with how the relationship was going to work and those kind of pieces. But this project has been ongoing for over 2 years now. And so we're really finally getting to this point of fruition where we found the right partner and we found the right product, and now we're bringing it to more users.
And I guess also it doesn't have the kind of the problem that a lot of North American sports have, that they are very North American centric. So I guess with kind of baseball, you do have the kind of Japan likes baseball, and some I don't know if there's any other ones, but basketball is actually, for those kind of sports, is actually quite global. Obviously, China has got massive, but even in Europe, there's quite a lot of basketball as well.
Yeah, the whole base of basketball players themselves is getting more and more international. If you look at players like Luka Doncic from Slovenia, and you look at even way back Tony Parker from France. There are players from Latin America. There are players from Asia. The players themselves are from all over the world. It makes it really easy to get into, and the fan base is super global. There are people from all over the world who really love basketball, and it makes the path easier for us, for sure, to be able to reach fans all over the place. I would say it's probably one of the least North American centric of the North American sports, and we definitely are going to benefit from that.
Yeah. So as I've kind of fessed up, I don't really know anything about basketball. In fact, the only things I know about basketball really are what I've learned through playing the the beta of of the game. So you're doing some education on me. But can you kind of how does the thing actually work? So what do I do? I kind of for a user who's coming in, they create a password and a email and password kind of set up. They get into they log in. What happens? What they kind of presented with? What's um, the kind of flow that you're trying to encourage them to get excited about?
For sure. And I'll say before I get into that, that you're certainly not the first person that has said that they've gotten interested in basketball from Top Shot. So I think we're starting a new group of crypto centric basketball fans, which I love. So that's super fun. Yeah, so I mean, I'll talk to you about kind of what the journey I took is, which is, username and password. There's no additional plugins. I'm non-technical, so even plugging something into Chrome was an enormous lift for me when I, first started, playing around with CryptoKitties, even as an employee at Axiom Zen. So username and password, you can get in and see what's available from the perspective of packs. And in packs, you're going to get a variety of content, a variety of moments, and some of those are going to be more common, and some of them are going to be special editions. Part of the fun is opening packs. I think anyone who has played a game that has some kind of loot box mechanic to it loves that. It's the mechanic we've chosen is not quite loot box, but there's still a lot of surprise oriented, and as you find the thing that you want in there, it's pretty exciting. When we released the cosmic packs, which were kind of our first really scarce moments, I pulled a Rui Hachimura, who's the first Japanese basketball player from that pack, and I was beyond excited about it. I'm a huge fan. I was like, I can't even believe my luck that this first pack that I opened is the exact thing that I wanted. I will say I am not always that lucky, but in that case, I was. Um, and so you pull some stuff from packs. Maybe you're trying to finish a challenge. The way we have challenges set up are that if you have all of kind of the right moments in that challenge, if you have a full set, then you can access a reward that you can't buy. So that's exciting too. It's a little kind of prize, which in some cases is a really valuable prize, and we only mint a certain amount of those. And so you may end up with something actually even more rare than you expected, which is exciting. If you didn't pull all of the things you need out of packs, you can go to the marketplace and see what other collectors have listed and make a decision there. We kind of we thread those by the type of moment. And so you could say, I'm just trying to finish a challenge, so I'll take whatever, the most affordable version of it is. Or you might say, wow, there's a version of a LeBron special edition that has his number. I'm like gonna buy this number 23 LeBron, and that's super exciting. So you can kind of go in either of those directions. And there's also gifting functionality. So you could trade with people if it's a non cash transaction. When I go in to buy packs, I use a credit card primarily. Um, but you can also use any kind of crypto wallet through an integration we have with Coinbase. And it gives people choice. And I think that's also part of what's great about it, that it's not just pay with your credit card or you can't participate. It is pay with whatever kind of currency you want and participate in whatever way you want. And then once you own those moments, they're actually yours. And if you want to go and resell them, go ahead and make some money off of them.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you've been running the closed beta for, I mean, it's actually quite a few months now. I kind of got involved at the tail end of that. You've kind of now gone into open beta, but from the beta thing, it seems like you were pretty successful. I think it's over. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a couple of $1 million worth of packs have been sold. And from what I've seen, it seems like, I mean, I sold something on the marketplace, so it works. As people are buying things. Have you been surprised at the kind of level of? I mean, it's not just about the kind of financial, kind of the numbers involved in terms of the money side, because obviously that is a reflection of people's passion for it. But have you been surprised by that? I mean, I guess it's a closed beta, so you would expect people to be quite passionate about that, because they're people who've kind of self-selected to get involved in this kind of product?
Yeah, we have done over 2 million US dollars in revenue, which is exciting. We've actually only been in beta for 2.5 months,
Is it only two and a
so it
half? Oh,
feels
sure, it
it
feels
feels
longer for
like a
you.
long time.
Yeah.
It feels like it's aged us, maybe. There's been a lot of great feedback from the community, and the community is spectacular. They're vocal. Many of them are have a high level of NBA fandom. Um, but I don't think any of it was super surprising. I think we expected people to come into the product, and I think we hoped people would come into Top Shot and say, wow, this is a different level of content quality. This is a different kind of experience. It resonates with a basketball fan. And I think we're hearing that. The things that we have to do a better job at are, describing value and explaining, why the things that you own are valuable. There's an intrinsic value, of course, like that Rui Hachimura, if you go into the marketplace, is a lot less expensive than a LeBron James. So it means something more to me than maybe other people. So there's always that intrinsic value, but explaining that extrinsic value a little more is something that we're continuing to improve on, especially for non-crypto native NBA fans. But certainly as we ramp up the open beta and let anybody in, we'll get a lot more learnings from just the volume of participants. And then as we move through the end of the year and early next year, releasing more and more on the mobile game and how the NFTs fit into that mobile gaming experience, I think is going to be really exciting for people.
I just
Yeah,
want
certainly. That. Oh, go on.
I just want to add something to the revenue mark. I mean, the revenue from packs is more of a question of any inventory we're putting up is basically getting snapped up in less than a minute. The packs are selling out very quickly, and we're actually looking at the secondary marketplace and the health of the secondary marketplace as a really important sort of KPI. I just looked up this morning. 50% of listings are selling within a week of being listed, and just in the last less than couple weeks, we've had 4 LeBrons sell for more than $2,000, and these are cards that have been discovered in packs of 50 bucks, $25, or the cosmic that Caty mentioned, $230. So it's the limited edition, sort of the digital scarcity is translating very well from sort of physical trading cards down to or I should say up to the digital version, and we pay as much attention to sort of how the community is doing and how the economy is doing as to how much revenue that we're making directly.
Because in a sense, I mean that is the long term vision for any product, but certainly a blockchain game is not the fact that you can sell you can do primary sales to an audience, because that's what games have been doing. Free to play games have been doing that for the last 10 years very successfully. So we don't need blockchains to do that. It's the secondary marketplace, which is the bit that we don't have. And I think more generally, it is interesting that we've seen the last 6 months. We've seen quite a few kind of collectible products come out. Some of them have been kind of official licenses of real world things. So we've had the kind of the garbage pail kid stuff on Wax, and Wax, particularly as a blockchain, seems to have built a reputation around kind of this kind of collecting thing. And I mean, it seems like kind of NFTs and collections. I think it's been quite surprising to see the kind of passion that people have been having for these things. But I think in the long term, it's interesting that you guys are talking about a mobile game, because that to me seems to be, again, going into the vision of why I'm interested in blockchain as a kind of games person is bringing these NFTs into a game. You get the collection stuff, which we know works, but then bringing that into a game brings all this kind of deeper, certainly the kind of philosophical value, I guess, is what you're talking about, kind of, Caty, about the kind of the personal value, which is not necessarily the intrinsic financial value. But if you have a character in a game you've been playing, then that kind of helps bring those two things together, and I think in a more holistic way.
Yeah, and as we look at not just the NBA Top Shot mobile extension, but other projects we're working on and other projects that our partners, Roham had mentioned, Stargirl, MotoGP, We don't want to build the same thing over and over. And so we really want the NBA Top Shot experience in mobile to feel good and be endemic to basketball fandom. And then we'll look at that in the same way for UFC fandom, and Animoca will look at it in the same way for MotoGP fandom and Stargirl fandom. So it really comes back to that fan being at the center of the experience, and what do basketball fans or what do fans of other things really love, because otherwise it doesn't really matter. It has to kind of start there.
And it is interesting because, I mean, I remember when you announced the UFC kind of game, and that was kind of like that seemed really interesting because obviously I guess at that point you were best known for CryptoKitties and Cheese Whiz as both kind of internal IPs that you kind of created, and both kind of, you know, in their ways kind of quite whimsical, I suppose, and kind of UFC obviously very different. And then for me the kind of really weird one, not weird in a bad way, but the Dr. Zeus one again seemed. Dr. Zeus is not the first, is not in the first wave of IP, I think, coming to blockchains, and then we've had Animoca brands with, say, Stargirl, and then the Sandbox has Care Bear, which is again, I mean, all these kind of building up. So generally, have you been surprised how for the deals that you've been looking at, that how open IP owners are to coming to blockchain? I mean, do they just kind of get it, or do they just like don't care about the tech and just think it's another way for us to get licensing money?
I think it's a mix, to be honest. There's certainly an attractiveness to the space, and big sales help that for IP rights holders to say this is worth taking the risk to enter the space. We've been very serious with our partners that we intend for our experiences to be decentralized. And that has taken a lot of negotiation and continues to take a lot of negotiation to ensure that they understand that the things that consumers own in this space, they truly own. I always say it's like the jersey hanging in my closet. The NBA can't come into my house and take that jersey out of my closet. So the NBA can't come into my account and take those top shots away. And so I think that's the hardest part for IP rights holders. But it makes total sense. I spent most of my career on the other side of the table, having worked, for the NFL and the NHL, and working in that environment where you hold the IP and it's valuable. It's a great way to connect with fans in a revenue driving way. It's a great way to deepen relationships, because what makes you have a deeper relationship than being financially incentivized to be a fan in some ways. And so there are really interesting things there, and there are deep fandoms in very strange places. So I think the Cat in the Hat is the least of those, but is a beloved intellectual property, and we're excited about seeing how that comes to life again in a very different way from a UFC fighter.
Well, yes, certainly my educating my children about blockchain will be made easier with Dr. Zeus available. Kind of wrapping up now. I guess it's I don't know how keen you are on predictions. Probably no one likes predictions, but I like to ask predictive kind of questions. I mean, it seems to me that we've gone through a few kind of or certainly one difficult year and one kind of like a plateauing sort of year. And it seems like the first half of 2020 has been this kind of explosion in DeFi, which has become kind of increasingly odd in its own way, and now it seems there's been a kind of a spin-off into kind of NFTs and all these game projects that have been been working on for a number of years. There's lots of people who've been working on games for 2 years, like you guys have, and it seems like it's kind of coming together in a way that is really kind of gaining momentum that we haven't really seen before. So I'll ask both of you, Roham, how do you see the next kind of 6 to 12 months? Do you think it's going to be just a gradual kind of increase, a gradual acceptance that this is a kind of serious thing that all games companies should be looking at, or do you think it's going to have that kind of potential kind of hockey stick sort of some product comes out, really takes off, and suddenly there's a whole kind of hype wheel around it?
I might be biased from the CryptoKitties experience, but I think it is going to be the latter, in the sense that both game companies, many game companies are looking for ways to sort of change up their economics. I think the current economics of the game industry only really work for a subset of publishers. And I don't think they work for consumers either. And so I think there's a lot of demand for the changes here. I just think many people have written crypto and blockchain off because the technology hasn't been ready. So my prediction is in the next 6 to 12 months, not only will you see a shift of a lot of gaming companies, consumer tech companies, any team that's trying to build sort of technology around their communities, shift to crypto and blockchain, and then you'll also start seeing a decoupling of crypto networks like Flow that have fundamental use cases and real world companies making actual revenues and profits with the tech. You'll see a decoupling of those from other cryptocurrencies that suffer from this sort of bear market, bull market, up and down. Because I mean, in as you know, game companies and entertainment doesn't go away in recessions. And at the end of the day, all blockchains are and all NFTs are is a way to share ownership and control in a particular game or in a particular governance structure with the consumers. And so that doesn't once that sort of cat is let out of the bag, I think it's only going to compound, and it won't work for every publisher, it won't work for every experience. But I think the value is really there, and so I think it's going to be more of a flywheel.
Caty, similar view. Are we all going to the moon again?
I mean, I live on the content side of the business, really. And so I think we're going to see good, bad, and ugly. I think we'll see projects come to fruition that are really great in theory, but don't work or aren't adopted. I think we'll see really bad projects with really great IP that gain just enough traction. I think we'll see really exciting stuff, and hopefully those are the ones that have longevity. But I think we're going to see from a content perspective, we're going to see a little bit of everything because of the volume of interest that we've seen in the space, and all of the different organizations that we've talked to that have different fan bases and have different kinds of intellectual property. I hope we see some really great original content. We see some not IP driven stuff that's really awesome. I hope CryptoKitties has another wave in that as well, because that's always, near and dear to our heart. And so I just think we'll see more.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for your time and for giving us your predictions. We shall put the link in to NBA Top Shop so people can get themselves signed up and see what it is we've been banging on about. And also link into Flow for developers who might be interested to getting a bit more behind the scenes on how this thing works. So thanks to Roham and Caty.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Thanks. It was great to join.
And thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Blockchain Gaming World, interviewing the people making this new gaming sector happen every week. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. We're available through your usual podcast providers. And if you think you enjoy us, a review would be lovely and help other people find the podcast. But thanks for listening, and come back next week.